Welcome to Chasing Tents, guys, and welcome to part 3 of this series of these videos. This is the last video of deciphering all the upgrades on this bike. This bike in particular is Aprilia RSV4 RF, but these upgrades, basically, this is for anyone and everyone, all bikes. So I'm going to have my phone with me, so you got to bear with me here. So we've already discussed in part 1 all the upgrades as a quick whiz through, and in part 2 I only discussed the front, bottom and the top of this bike. Now we discuss the middle and the rear. So number 1, we've got carbon fiber crash covers on the main twin spar chassis of the Aprilia. Now if guys you don't have these, you must, or have any kind of thick PPF covering, gravel rash on your chassis or even swing arm, which we'll come to in a bit, is not nice. So must get that. And to be honest, carbon covers, I've had 8 crashes on this bike, 8, and look at this, fantastic. All right, now GB protection for the casing. All right, now I'm a big advocate of GB protection for the casing. I've got RNG here for a reason, and I've got GB protection here for a reason. I've crashed, no disrespect to RNG, but I've had RNG in 3 crashes here, and I know their plastic polymer design is meant to slow your bike down when you crash. I know they've had some upgrades since, but I found that when my bike was sliding for a very, very long time, the RNG sadly failed and my casing completely got damaged twice. But with GB protection, this is so strong. Yes, it probably doesn't slow the bike down as it's going, but it is really solid. It stays there. Then I've got RNG crash bungs. We go back to RNG now because they are the best crash bungs ever. They distribute your crash jolt with these 2 nuts in a bigger surface area. So you've got this big thing coming out and you've got this big metal bracket. So even if this fails, you've still got about 1.5 inches to 2 inches here of thickness, which protects your chassis. Now, let me show my face for this one. I know a lot of people are not a big advocate of crash bungs. They think they can get stuck in apexes or grass and kind of twist your bike, or bike goes tumbling down. You can't simulate a perfect crash, guys. You really cannot, all right? If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen anyways. If your bike's gonna flip, it's gonna flip. But honestly, I've had about 7 or 8 crashes, 8 I think, and they've always protected. The RNG bobbins and the GB protection there. All right, so this was my best combination. Next one, I think I've got Samco hoses, if I'm not wrong, which were fitted by my good friend Gogo. Then Spider oil filler cap, which is nothing major, it's just an oil filler cap. Extreme Components rear sets. Now, I am okay with them. I bought these from a company called Road Race Performance Shropshire, who are not there anymore. Now, the big problem I found with them is, number 1, availability of spares. When I had a crash during my endurance racing season, when I had a crash with these, I couldn't get the parts quick enough from Italy. You can get any rear sets, Geels, I don't know, Spider, ARP, anyone, all right? But make sure whoever you get it from, they can get you spare parts easily. Sadly, Road Race Performance Shropshire are not in business anymore, so I can't get any spare parts directly from the UK. But I really didn't like something about this. I mean, they are fabulous. They are made brilliantly. Nothing has ever gone wrong, except the footrest was very, very sharp. These things were very sharp, so I was struggling to move my foot. So I've had these ones from ARP. I might be changing these rear sets because of, just for the sake of spare parts. Guys, you can buy anyone, like I said before, Diamond, Geels, whatever. Just make sure whoever you're getting it from. I think for Italian bikes, Spider are great, ARP are great, but make sure you can get spare parts easily, especially if you do a lot of track days and racing. Then we move on to battery is from Shido. Now you can get any lithium battery, they are fantastic. Lightweight battery, lithium battery, easiest weight saving. All right, let's move on to performance and service stuff. Now, performance-wise, the big thing people do, obviously a slip-on, then you want to do a remap. When I bought this bike in around 2017, I think, no one I mean, I rang so many companies. No one can confidently do a remap on the Aprilia RSV4. So I even went to a company who did self-learning remaps, and they were quite popular. Sadly, it all went pear-shaped for them, no names mentioned. So I then went back to them, deleted that map, and then sent my ECU to Gabbro in Italy, which is quite popular with the Aprilia scene. Brilliant ECU, no problems whatsoever. And then someone told me I installed a Power Commander 5 like an idiot with the fueling module and everything. Shouldn't have done that. On a modern bike, you don't need Power Commanders. Biggest mistake ever. It didn't confuse anything. It just made things busy underneath the seat. So every time I would take it to service to John Coughlin, detail service, he would hate it. John Coughlin is an Aprilia Guru in the UK. So anyways, I took all of that out and simply went back to Aprilia map for a Krapovich slip-on. Was absolutely brilliant. But then I found the electronics were slightly intrusive when I was absolutely full on. So someone told me Aprilia Superstock ECU option is a great thing. So I've done that. It's fine, you know, and the power it makes is 178 bhp. I've never had anything more than 178 bhp on this bike, with normally a softish tire. So we can add another 2 or 3 more max. Okay guys, back to the studio. Like they say, I thought I'll shed some more light on this, what I've just said, that no one could competently tune an Aprilia in 2016, 2017. Now, if you are someone in the UK who gets offended by this, I'm sorry, but honestly, I rang a few companies and they told me that Aprilia ECUs and BMW ECUs in those times, 10 years ago, were very difficult to infiltrate, if that's the right word. And I was given an option of Power Commanders or rapid bike units. Like I think they were a very expensive, and I think it was a £700 unit. But I bought a Power Commander with a secondary fueling module from America for $60. And I know why it was for $60, which was dead cheap, because I'm sure the previous guy probably got fed up of it, sold it to me. And then I had a problem. Whoever installed it didn't earth it properly, and it gave me problems between 10,000 revs and 11,000 revs. I had no power for a short span of time, and I could really feel that on the racetrack. And if you watch my 2019 Portimao and Jerez videos, you will probably come across that. So yeah, you don't need Power Commanders for these modern bikes. If you've got a bike from the late 90s, mid noughties, fair enough, that's fine. You know, you can fine tune things. But these days with these ECUs and, you know, the cylinder banks and all sorts, they can tune pretty much everything pretty nicely. So, and I also got a switch with my Power Commander. So I had a rain map and I had a dry weather map. So it was quite funky. But yeah, never again. And now I've got a thanks to a friend in Germany, Andreas, if you're watching, big time. And I went to Germany to do my valve springs changed on my bike. And you might be surprised, why the hell did he go to Germany to get the valve springs changed? Number one, Andreas is as an absolute guru of Aprilias, and he gave me a really good deal, and it was before the Trump-Iran war thing, so the fuel was cheap, so it wasn't as expensive to go to Germany. But if you are in Germany, or if you are in the UK and you want to go to Germany, or if you are in Europe and you can go to Germany easily, especially Poland or adjoining countries, I'll leave Andrea's details in the description section, or his Instagram or Facebook. You can contact him. He's a fabulous guy. He knows his Aprilias like no one I've ever met before, and he gave me the idea to move to the Superstock Aprilia Superstock map on the ECU, and he did that for me, and you know, the bike is fabulous. Now, next is Sprint air filter, something comical, all right? This Sprint air filter is called the P08F1-85. The reason I mentioned this, I had a crash and I ordered an air filter, and a company sent me this and they made a mistake. So they sold me the air filter for about £30, and they realized they sent me the wrong one. What they sent me was the Sprint air filter's MotoGP avatar of air filter, basically super translucent. If you look at it through it's £230, 230 Great British pounds. Can you believe it? They made a mistake. They called me later on saying, we made a mistake, we sent you this, you've already paid, you don't need to pay, we are sorry. And I'm like, don't say sorry, you've given me some flipping crazy stuff. Anyways, then I always use Motul oil, 5W40, fully synthetic ester, genuine oil filter. Rear of the bike, very important, very interesting. So we've already mentioned the slip-on from Akrapovic. It's got a rain light here. Okay guys, let's talk about that Akrapovic exhaust. That's probably my third Akrapovic exhaust after a few crashes, and I've learned my lesson. That's why you see two RNG crash protection bands on that Akrapovic, and they are very strategically placed right on top of the rivet band. So these Akrapovic exhausts have got a carbon sleeve that's all kind of wrapped up with these kind of rivety bands, and when you crash, you damage these rivet bands, and then obviously the whole thing can come apart. So you put these two, so you get these from RNG, I think they are 30-35 pounds, and you put these two bands, you can put them anywhere on your exhaust, but I deliberately put them on top of those rivet bands. So when I do crash, which I did, so I've crashed twice with that exhaust band and nothing's happened to that exhaust, and the band only had slight damage. But those rivety bands, metal bands, get protected, and your exhaust still looks, still is pretty usable. Öhlins TTX GP. This is the aftermarket race version, not the OEM version. All right, let's talk about the rear suspension. So that was the Öhlins TTX GP, £1,250. Do you really need that? No, you don't. Honestly, you don't. I think that was one spend on my bike, which I think I should have not done that, because if you remember, if you watch part 2, I explained the front shocks situation in a much more detail. I spoke to OMG Racing's team principal, Paul Curran, who is in Cannock, probably about 10-15 miles from me. And Paul told me, if you don't need a TTX GP, mate, you need to change the springs, and you need to go to the right person who knows about suspension to set your suspension. So I still could have kept the Öhlins which came with the bike, not the TTX GP, or sorry, not the TTX, the normal Öhlins, and I could have changed the spring, and I probably would have been fine. So, but I spent that money. I do regret spending that money on that, but it's all right. So yeah, you don't need to spend that much amount of money unless you are really racing on a decent level and you can afford it, and I could afford it in 2021. I can't afford it today. But like I said to you before you do any drastic change like that, change the spring, go to a suspension person, and then you don't need to spend probably that much amount of money. Remember what I said in part 2, your bike, OEM bike, comes with a fit for all suspension. You could have a 80 kilo girlfriend in the back or a 50 kilo girlfriend in the back, and it'll be fine. You could be a heavier rider, you could be a lighter rider. It's fine. It's one setting for all. But what you need is slightly tailor-made stuff on your bike. Doesn't need to be very expensive like that, but needs to be fitting for your need. Carbon hugger at the back. We've got braided lines. Okay guys, let's go back to that part again of the video where I mentioned braided lines. So the bike comes with braided lines, but I put some Hell aftermarket ones, as I explained in part 2. The reason I've done that, because I wanted a kind of a system which bypasses the ABS pump. So when you press the brake lever, or in this case, you press with the foot lever, or if you've got a handbrake, the kind of connection doesn't go through, the whole kind of pressures doesn't go through an ABS pump, which is basically obsolete because I've deleted ABS. So you have a direct connection directly to the calipers. We've got a carbon wheel with ceramic bearing, and we've got titanium spindle again. Lightweight disc here, which is really, really lightweight. Over suspension device. Okay guys, let's touch on that lightweight disc and the over suspension device. So yes, that disc is very lightweight. It still is pretty good, honestly. Aprilia rear brakes are not very good, but you know what, to stop a massive wheelie and stuff like that, they're good enough. Now, it saved me, I think, 0.8 of a kilo changing it to this disc. It's very lightweight, and these are the things you need to change. unsprung mass, rotational mass. This will really help you. Whether it's carbon fiber wheels, which I talked in detail about in part 2, you don't really need carbon fiber wheels. If you've got forged aluminium wheels, they're fine. But if you can afford them, or you got them cheap like me, secondhand, absolutely fine. Now, with the brake discs, that's also unsprung mass. Titanium nut and bolts on moving parts is unsprung mass. Definitely change that, and also get some reduce some of your weight. I'm about 6 kilos more than I should be at the moment. And if you watch my recent Ducati track day video, my suit was about to basically come apart. I need to buy I'm not going to buy a new suit. I'm going to reduce a bit of weight. Anyways, let's talk about the over suspension device. It is basically a mass damper. The technology behind the over suspension device is everywhere. It's in skyscrapers, it's in trains, it was in the Formula 1 car in 2005, Fernando Alonso, Renault car, it's in Ducati, MotoGP, Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaglia's bike, KTM, Honda. So mass damper is being used everywhere at the moment. It was banned, this same device was banned in British Superbikes and World Superbikes, this over suspension device. It is still a form of a mass damper. More details on this in 2 videos in my description section. I made these videos in 2020. I love science. My mum is a scientist, so I quite like the science behind it. So I made 2 detailed videos. You will know more about it there. It's not snake oil. A lot of people thought it was snake oil. This has been in the motorsport industry for decades. It's been hidden in the rear cowl of the seat or every nook and cranny where they can gain performance. It's not snake oil. You need to know what you're doing with this, and the rider feedback and all the sensors need to give you the oscillation feedback. Swing arm has a lot of oscillations. This reduces the oscillations on a bike, so you have less undue movements. More on that in the videos in the description. Let's move back to the video. Tsubaki race chain and a Talon sprocket front and back. I'm running a 1643, which works pretty well on most British track days. If you go to a European one on a 2015-16 Aprilia, 1642 is a great option. 16 front, 42 rear. Okay guys, let's talk about the chain and sprocket situation. I've done a video on this anyways. So a lot of people move to a 520 chain and sprocket situation. That also helps with unsprung mass, rotational mass. A 520 chain sprocket arrangement is lighter than 525 or 530. I think if you've got a touring bike, it comes with 530. They're more rugged, they're more durable, they're more it gives you better performance in the long run, and you can do miles after miles after miles. 525 is what you get OEM in a lot of bikes, super bikes as well. 520 is what you do aftermarket. You get a lightweight kind of sprocket as well, and that also helps with rotational mass. And the whole concept behind, one tooth less, 2 teeth more or whatever. I've explained that all in another video. I might put the description down there, but there are many videos on that on YouTube. Melotti axle protection again at the back, same thing. Really strong ergal aluminium, protects you from crashing. Harris kind of bobbins for your paddock stands. This is a GPS antenna for the I2M. I've kept the chain hugger pretty standard because it's got the chain tensioning settings and all that. So I've kept that pretty standard. I didn't go for carbon. IRC blipper has never gone wrong on this bike. It's been absolutely fabulous. All right, let's shed some light on IRC blipper. In particular with this bike. Now, IRC works really well with Aprilias and BMWs. In those days, 2015, 2016, you got quick shifter, but you didn't get a blipper, down blipper. And, this IRC blipper has never gone wrong. I've never had a gearbox issue with this. What you need to know with IRC blippers, or say any blipper really, you need to speak to the factory. IRC is Italian, and get the right settings for your bike to input that in the blipper itself. And secondly, I wouldn't fit it in the house. I would fit it at the garage where they have a dyno, so you can tune the blipper on the dyno to make sure the gear shift and everything's smooth. I've heard one or two horror stories where gearboxes failed or people have damaged one or two gears. I've not had that issue. I've had this blipper since 2018. Absolutely no issues. It's been what? How many years? 8 years? No issues whatsoever. I had a slight wear on gear 5, but that I was told that wasn't due to the blipper. That was just age related, and it was slight wear, and I got that gear changed. So I've not had any problems. Like I said, if you do buy a blipper, take it to a specialist, get the right settings, and tune it on a dyno. Yeah. In terms of upgrades, you might think, oh, Gucci bike, Spider this, Spider that, and by the way, Spider fuel cap I didn't mention. What I would say to you guys, a lot of this stuff came, I've had this bike 9 years, so a lot of this stuff came slowly, not in one go. And also I've had 7-8 crashes, so when something crashes you think, you know what, I'll get something better. Brake calipers, for example, okay, I had the standard M50 calipers, brilliant, no problem. Sometimes slight problems, delete ABS, all right, fine. Try different pads, all right, fine. Tried titanium ventilated pistons, absolutely brilliant, no problems. But then you get really more into hardcore braking, especially endurance racing, where you need better cooling and stuff. And then I moved to Accossato. So everything has been progressive, everything. I wouldn't say to spend all this money on your track bike, okay? Spend money on tires, spend money on saddle time on track days, time racing if you're racing. Spend money on suspension, spend money on brakes. Most importantly, spend money on coaching. Coaching is king, all right? Coaching is king. None of these upgrades help you chase seconds or chase tenths. What really helps is coaching. We've got, great coaches in this country. We've got Mike the Spike Edwards, we've got Gary Walton, we've got Dean Ellison, we've got Michael Neves, great Michael Neves. We got Taylor McKenzie even doing a coaching here and there. We got fabulous people in this country. So rather than spending a lot of this time on buying a lot of these upgrades, just get some coaching. But I do hope that you got something out of this video, because the parts I've got here are there for a reason, because some failed, some didn't do well. So what I have here is the best that I could get. I forgot to mention a Brembo clutch perch, by the way, but yeah, that is it. So this is part 3, end of the series. Once again, massive thank you to my dear departed friend Gogo for sorting this bike out, this avatar of bike which I have now, which I will keep for as long as I can. But thank you for watching this series. I really appreciate it, and I hope you got something out of it. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time. Look after yourself. Please do like and subscribe. Take care.